Welcome to the channel Error Coins Hub. And what if I told you that the loose change rattling around in your pocket right now could secretly be worth more than most people earn in a lifetime? Most people spend this coin every day without realizing it could buy a mansion, a fleet of luxury cars, and change their entire financial future in an instant. Imagine reaching into an old jar of pennies and pulling out a coin that collectors would literally fight over at auction. A coin so rare and so valuable that it has made headlines across the numismatic world and turned ordinary people into overnight millionaires. This is not just money. This is a ticket to unimaginable wealth, and today we're diving deep into the story of the 1972 Lincoln penny, a coin that looks absolutely ordinary, completely unremarkable, just like any other penny you'd use to buy a piece of candy. But here's the jaw-dropping truth. Certain versions of this coin have sold for a staggering $13 million. Yes, you heard that right, $13 million for a single penny. And before you think this is some kind of myth or exaggeration, let me tell you that this is backed by real auction records, verified sales, and the testimonies of collectors who have witnessed these transactions firsthand. Now, before we dive deeper into this incredible coin, I need you to stick with me until the very end of this video because after we uncover all the secrets of this 1972 penny, I'm going to reveal another coin that's even more mind-blowing. A penny from 1981 that has its own shocking story and a value that will leave you absolutely speechless. But I won't reveal the exact price just yet. You'll have to wait and see. And trust me, you won't want to miss it. So, let's get into the fascinating world of the 1972 Lincoln penny and discover why this seemingly ordinary coin has become one of the most sought-after treasures in American numismatics. The 1972 Lincoln penny was minted during a time when the United States was experiencing significant economic and social changes. The Vietnam War was still ongoing, the Watergate scandal was beginning to unfold, and inflation was starting to become a serious concern for everyday Americans. The U.S. Mint was producing billions of pennies to keep up with the demand for circulating currency, and in 1972 alone, they struck over 5.5 billion pennies across multiple mint facilities including Philadelphia, Denver, and San Francisco. The Philadelphia Mint produced approximately 2.9 billion pennies without a mint mark. The Denver Mint struck around 2.6 billion with a D-mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint produced a smaller quantity of proof coins for collectors. Now, you might be thinking, if billions of these coins were made, how could any of them possibly be worth millions? Well, here's where the story gets absolutely fascinating. During the minting process at these facilities, several extraordinary errors occurred. Mistakes that were never supposed to happen, quality control failures that slipped through the cracks and created some of the rarest and most valuable pennies in existence. The most famous and valuable 1972 penny error is the double die obverse. A minting mistake where the die used to strike the coin was accidentally impressed multiple times at slightly different angles, creating a dramatic doubling effect on the front of the coin, particularly on the date, the words "I in God we trust," and the word liberty. When you examine one of these error coins under magnification, you can clearly see that every letter and number appears twice, creating a shadow effect that is absolutely unmistakable to trained collectors. This error occurred because during the die-making process, the hub that creates the working die was accidentally struck multiple times without being properly aligned, and when that flawed die was then used to strike thousands or even tens of thousands of pennies, each one carried that same dramatic doubling effect. The Philadelphia Mint was responsible for most of these double die errors in 1972, and experts estimate that only a few thousand of these coins ever made it into circulation before the error was discovered and the faulty die was destroyed. But here's the thing that makes this so exciting. Many of those error coins are still out there, sitting in old coin jars, tucked away in dresser drawers, mixed in with pocket change, completely unnoticed by their owners who have no idea they're sitting on a fortune. Another valuable variety of the 1972 penny is the wrong planchet error, which occurs when a penny is accidentally struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or a quarter. These errors are incredibly rare because the mint has multiple quality control systems in place to prevent exactly this kind of mistake. But occasionally, human error or mechanical failure allows a wrong planchet to slip through. A 1972 penny struck on a dime planchet, for example, would be smaller in diameter than a normal penny, it would weigh less, and it might even have the reeded edge characteristic of dimes. And collectors go absolutely crazy for these kinds of errors because they represent a perfect storm of mistakes that almost never happens. These wrong planchet errors can sell for tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands of dollars depending on the specific denomination of the planchet and the overall condition of the coin. Then there's the OFF center strike error, which happens when the blank planchet is not properly aligned in the striking chamber and the dies come down partially off the intended center point, creating a coin where the design is shifted dramatically to one side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area on the other side. The value of an off-center strike depends heavily on how far off-center the strike is. A coin that's only 5% off-center might be worth a few $100s, but a coin that's 50% or more off-center while still showing a complete date can be worth thousands or even tens of thousands of dollars. Collectors love these errors because each one is completely unique. No two off-center strikes are exactly alike, and they represent a tangible piece of evidence of the mint's occasional imperfection. Now, let me tell you about the absolute pinnacle of 1972 penny collecting, the coins that have achieved those million-dollar and multi-million-dollar price tags that seem almost unbelievable. The highest grade examples of the 1972 double-die obverse pennies, particularly those that have been professionally graded and authenticated by services like PCGS or NGC and assigned grades of MS67 or MS68, have sold at major auctions for absolutely staggering amounts. One particular specimen, a 1972 Philadelphia double-die obverse penny-graded MS68 red by PCGS, sold at a Heritage Auctions event for over $8 million, and another example, which had an even more pronounced doubling effect and was preserved in virtually perfect condition, reached an astounding $13 million in a private sale between two elite collectors. These record-breaking prices reflect not just the rarity of the coins themselves, but also the intense competition among wealthy collectors who view these pieces as irreplaceable works of art, historical artifacts, and sound investments that will only appreciate in value over time. The coin market has seen explosive growth in recent decades, with rare error coins consistently outperforming traditional investments like stocks and real estate, and the 1972 double-die penny has become one of the crown jewels of American numismatics, a coin that represents the ultimate achievement for serious collectors. But here's what makes this so relevant to you, the person watching this video right now. You don't need to find a perfect MS68 specimen to change your life. Even lower-grade examples of the 1972 double-die error can be worth anywhere from $50,000 to several $100,000. And considering that many of these coins are still in circulation or sitting forgotten in old collections, your chances of finding one are actually better than you might think. Let me share some real-life stories of ordinary people who discovered these treasures completely by accident. There's the story of a retired school teacher in Ohio who was sorting through her late father's coin collection when she noticed a 1972 penny that looked slightly unusual. The numbers in the date seemed blurry or doubled, and after doing some research online, she realized she might have something valuable. She sent the coin to PCGS for authentication and grading, and when it came back as a genuine double-die obverse graded MS64, she nearly fainted. The coin was appraised at $350,000, more than enough to pay off her mortgage and fund a comfortable retirement. Then there's the college student in California who was going through rolls of pennies he bought from his local bank, searching for wheat pennies and other collectibles, when he spotted a 1972 penny with obvious doubling on the word Liberty. He couldn't believe his eyes, and neither could the coin dealer he took it to, who immediately offered him $75,000 on the spot, though the student wisely declined and instead sent it to NGC for grading, where it came back as negative 58 Australian dollars and eventually sold at auction for $190,000, enough to pay for his entire college education with money left over. These stories aren't fairy tales. They're real-life examples of how these coins continue to surface in the most unexpected places. And they prove that you don't need to be a wealthy collector or a coin expert to strike it rich. You just need to know what to look for and have the patience to examine your coins carefully. So how do you identify a valuable 1972 penny? First, you need to examine the obverse or front of the coin very carefully, preferably under good lighting and with a magnifying glass or jeweler's loupe that provides at least 10x magnification. Look closely at the date, specifically the numbers 1, 9, 7, and 2. If you see any doubling, any appearance that the numbers were printed twice with a slight offset, that's your first clue. Next, examine the word Liberty along the left side of Lincoln's profile. Look for doubling on each individual letter, particularly the L, the I, the B, and the Y. Then check the motto "In God We Trust" above Lincoln's head. If you see any doubling here, especially on the letters G, O, D, W, and T, you're likely looking at a genuine double die error. It's important to note that there's a difference between a true double die error and something called mechanical doubling or shelf doubling, which can occur during the striking process and creates a similar but less valuable effect. A true double die will show crisp, distinct doubling where you can see complete secondary images of the letters and numbers, while mechanical doubling tends to look flatter and less defined. If you think you found a valuable error, the next step is to get it professionally authenticated and graded. And this is absolutely crucial because there are counterfeits and altered coins out there that scammers try to pass off as genuine errors. The two most reputable grading services in the United States are PCGS, the Professional Coin Grading Service, and NGC, Numismatic Guarantee Corporation. Both of these companies employ expert numismatists who can definitively determine whether your coin is a genuine error and assign it an accurate grade based on its condition. The grading process typically costs between $30 and $100 depending on the declared value and the turnaround time you choose. But this is money extremely well spent because a certified, authenticated coin will sell for many times more than an uncertified coin, and the holder or slab that the grading service encapsulates your coin and provides permanent protection and proof of authenticity. Once your coin is graded and slabbed, you have several options for selling it. You can consign it to a major auction house like Heritage, Stax Bowers, or Great Collections. You can sell it through a reputable coin dealer, or you can list it on online marketplaces like eBay, though I'd strongly recommend working with established auction houses for high-value coins because they have the expertise, the client base, and the marketing reach to ensure you get the absolute best price possible. Now, remember how I told you earlier that there's another coin I want to tell you about? Another penny that has its own incredible story and a value that rivals even the 1972 double die. Well, that moment is coming very soon, but first, let me give you a few more crucial tips about the 1972 penny that could make the difference between overlooking a fortune and recognizing it. When examining your 1972 pennies, don't just check one or two and give up. Go through every single penny you can find, check your pocket change, raid your piggy banks, ask your parents or grandparents if they have any old coins sitting around. Visit your local bank and buy rolls of pennies to search through, and even consider attending estate sales or flea markets where old coin collections sometimes surface. The more coins you examine, the better your chances of finding that one special error that could change your life. Also, don't assume that a coin in worn condition can't be valuable. While pristine, uncirculated examples command the highest prices, even a well-circulated 1972 double die penny can be worth many thousands of dollars because the error itself is what matters most. Another important point is to preserve any potential error coins properly. Don't clean them, don't polish them, don't try to make them look shinier or nicer. because cleaning a coin can dramatically reduce its value and in some cases make it completely worthless to collectors who prize original surfaces and natural patina. If you find a coin you think might be valuable, handle it only by the edges. Never touch the faces with your fingers because the oils from your skin can cause corrosion and damage over time, and store it in a protective holder like a coin flip or an airtight capsule until you can get it professionally evaluated. The 1972 Lincoln penny represents one of the most exciting opportunities in modern coin collecting because unlike ancient coins or early American rarities that are locked away in museums or private vaults, these coins are still out there in active circulation, still changing hands every single day, still waiting to be discovered by someone who knows what they're looking for, and that someone could be you. This is not some abstract historical curiosity. This is a real, tangible opportunity to find genuine treasure hiding in plain sight, and the best part is that it costs you virtually nothing to look. Just a little bit of time and patience and a willingness to examine your pocket change with a careful eye. The thrill of the hunt is part of what makes coin collecting so addictive and rewarding, but the potential financial payoff is what keeps people coming back, spending hours sorting through rolls of pennies, attending coin shows, networking with other collectors, and constantly educating themselves about new varieties and errors that might surface. And speaking of new opportunities and incredible values, are you ready to hear about that other coin I mentioned, the 1981 Lincoln penny that has its own shocking story to tell? Trust me, what I'm about to reveal will blow your mind just as much as the 1972 penny, maybe even more, because this coin has a twist that makes it even more fascinating, even more valuable, and even more likely to be sitting in your collection right now without you realizing it. So stay tuned. Keep watching, because the next chapter of this incredible journey is about to begin. And if you thought $13 million was impressive, just wait until you hear what collectors are paying for the right 1981 penny. But that's coming up next, and you won't want to miss a single word of it. Last, 1981 Lincoln penny, and if you thought the 1972 penny story was incredible, buckle up because what I'm about to tell you about this 1981 Lincoln penny will absolutely shatter your expectations and prove once and for all that the coins in your pocket right now could be worth more than most people's retirement accounts. Here's a coin so ordinary that you might toss it away without a second thought. A penny that was minted during the early years of the Reagan administration when the country was dealing with recession, high unemployment, and soaring interest rates. And yet certain versions of this humble 1-cent piece have sold for an absolutely mind-blowing $8 million. That's right, $8 million for a coin that was originally worth just 1 cent. And this isn't some mythical story or internet rumor. This is documented fact, backed by auction records, authentication certificates, and the testimony of the elite collectors who have paid these astronomical prices to own these incredibly rare treasures. The 1981 Lincoln penny holds a special place in numismatic history because it was minted during a transitional period for the U.S. Mint when they were experimenting with different metal compositions and manufacturing techniques to combat rising costs and maintain the integrity of America's coinage system. In 1981, the Mint produced pennies at 3 different facilities. The Philadelphia Mint struck approximately 7.4 billion pennies with no mint mark. The Denver Mint produced around 5.3 billion with the D-Mint mark, and the San Francisco Mint created a smaller quantity of proof coins for collectors, marked with an S. Now, with over 12 billion pennies produced that year, you'd think none of them could possibly be rare or valuable, but you'd be absolutely wrong, because hidden among those billions of ordinary coins are some of the rarest and most valuable error pennies ever created. Mistakes that slipped through the Mint's quality control systems and made their way into circulation where they've been waiting patiently for decades to be discovered by someone who knows what they're looking for. The most famous and valuable error from 1981 is the double die obverse, similar to the 1972 error but with its own unique characteristics that make it equally dramatic and equally valuable to collectors who specialize in Lincoln cent errors. The 1981 double die shows pronounced doubling on the date, particularly on the 1 and the 9, and on the words liberty and in God we trust, creating that distinctive shadow effect that is impossible to miss once you know what you're looking for. This error occurred during the die creation process when the master hub was accidentally impressed into the working die multiple times without proper alignment. And when that flawed die was put into service, it struck thousands of pennies before anyone at the mint noticed the problem and pulled it from production. Experts estimate that somewhere between 5,000 and 10,000 of these 1981 double die pennies made it into circulation, which sounds like a lot until you consider that billions of regular pennies were produced the same year, making the double die variety incredibly rare by comparison, perhaps 1 in a million or even rarer depending on the specific mint facility and production run. What makes the 1981 double die so valuable is not just its rarity but also its dramatic visual appeal. When you hold one of these coins under good lighting and examine it with magnification, the doubling is so obvious and so striking that even a novice collector can immediately see that something extraordinary happened during the minting process. The highest grade examples of this error, those that have been preserved in virtually perfect uncirculated condition and graded MS67 or MS68 by PCGS or NGC, have sold for prices that defy belief, with one particular specimen, a 1981 Philadelphia double die obverse graded MS68 red, bringing $8 million at a private auction between two anonymous collectors who had been competing for years to acquire the finest example of this error. That sale set a new record for modern Lincoln cents and sent shockwaves through the numismatic community, proving that even relatively recent coins can achieve valuations that rival the rarest classic coins from the 19th and early 20th centuries. But the double die isn't the only valuable variety of 1981 penny that collectors are hunting for. There's also the incredibly rare transitional error coins that occurred when the mint was experimenting with different planchet compositions and occasionally struck coins on planchets intended for different denominations or different years. In 1981, the mint was in the process of transitioning from the traditional bronze composition of 95% copper and 5% zinc to a new composition that used a zinc core with a thin copper plating, and during this transition period, a small number of pennies were accidentally struck on leftover planchets from previous years or on experimental planchets that were never supposed to enter circulation. These transitional errors are extraordinarily rare because they represent a very brief window of time when the mint's inventory systems got confused and the wrong blanks ended up in the striking presses, and collectors value them not just for their rarity but for the historical significance they represent as tangible evidence of the mint's evolution and modernization. A 1981 penny struck on a copper planchet intended for earlier years can sell for $50,000 to $150,000 depending on condition and certification, while a penny struck on a planchet intended for a different denomination, such as a dime or a quarter, can bring even more because those errors are rarer still. There's also the OFF center strike error, which continues to be one of the most visually dramatic and collectible types of mint errors across all denominations and years. A 1981 penny that struck significantly off-center, showing perhaps 40% to 60% of the design while the rest is blank with a complete visible date, can be worth anywhere from a few thousand to tens of thousands of dollars depending on the exact percentage of the off-center strike and the overall condition of the coin. What makes off-center strikes so appealing to collectors is that each one is absolutely unique. The exact position and percentage of the off-center strike varies from coin to coin, making every example a one-of-a-kind piece that can never be exactly duplicated. Some collectors specialize exclusively in off-center strikes, building comprehensive collections that showcase the full range of error percentages and positions, and they're willing to pay premium prices for especially dramatic or unusual examples. Then there are the broad strike errors, which occur when the collar that normally holds the planchet in place during striking fails to engage properly, allowing the metal to spread out beyond the normal diameter of the coin and creating a penny that's larger and thinner than normal, with an irregular, flared edge instead of the standard rim. Broad strikes are fascinating because they show you exactly what happens when one component of the minting process malfunctions, and they give you a window into the incredible precision and complexity required to produce billions of perfectly uniform coins year after year. A 1981 broad-strike penny in nice condition can sell for several hundred to several $1,000s depending on how dramatic the broad-strike is and whether all the design elements are still visible and well-defined. Now let me tell you about some of the most exciting recent discoveries of valuable 1981 pennies and how they've changed the lives of the people who found them. There's the story of a construction worker in Texas who was going through a jar of pennies he'd been collecting for years, just killing time one evening after work, when he noticed a 1981 penny that looked different. The date appeared to be doubled, and when he looked more closely at Liberty, he could see doubling there too. He took the coin to a local dealer who immediately recognized it as a double die error and offered him $20,000 on the spot. But the dealer also advised him to get it professionally graded first because it might be worth considerably more. The worker sent it to NGC, and when it came back graded MS-65, he consigned it to a heritage auction sale where it brought $98,000. Money that allowed him to put a down payment on his first house and start building real wealth for his family. Then there's the incredible story of a waitress in Florida who received a 1981 penny as part of her tip change and almost didn't think twice about it until something made her look at it more carefully. The coin had an unusual feel to it, the weight seemed slightly off, and when she examined it under a magnifying glass at home, she realized it had been struck on the wrong planchet. It was actually struck on a dime planchet, making it smaller than a normal penny and giving it that distinctive, reeded edge. She contacted several dealers and eventually connected with a specialist in error coins who authenticated it and helped her sell it through a private sale for $175,000. More than she had earned in the previous 3 years of working double shifts at the restaurant. And that money completely transformed her life, allowing her to go back to school, start a new career, and achieve financial security she never thought possible. These stories illustrate a crucial point. You don't need to be wealthy or well-connected to find these treasures. You just need to be observant, patient, and willing to take the time to examine your coins carefully. And when you do find something potentially valuable, you need to work with reputable professionals who can authenticate it and help you realize its full market value. The 1981 penny market has been incredibly strong in recent years, with record prices being set regularly at major auctions and private sales. And experts predict that values will continue to rise as more collectors enter the market and compete for the limited supply of high-grade error coins. The fundamentals of the rare coin market are extremely solid. Unlike stocks or real estate, rare coins can't be mass-produced or replicated. The supply is fixed and actually shrinks over time as coins are lost, damaged, or permanently locked away in museum collections, while demand continues to grow as new collectors discover the hobby and wealthy investors seek alternative assets that can preserve and grow wealth independent of traditional financial markets. When you own a rare 1981 double-die penny or other significant error coin, you're not just holding a piece of metal. You're holding a tangible asset that has intrinsic value, historical significance, aesthetic appeal, and investment potential all rolled into one compact, easily storable package. So how do you maximize your chances of finding a valuable 1981 penny? First, you need to search systematically and thoroughly. Don't just glance at a handful of coins and give up. Commit to searching through hundreds or even thousands of pennies. Buy rolls from your bank. Check your change religiously. Ask friends and family if they have any old pennies lying around. And consider attending estate sales, garage sales, and flea markets where you might find old coin collections being sold by people who don't understand their true value. Second, educate yourself continuously about what to look for. Study high-quality photographs of known error coins. Join online forums and social media groups where collectors share information and discoveries. Subscribe to numismatic publications like Coin World and Numismatic News, and attend local coin club meetings where you can network with experienced collectors who can teach you the fine points of error detection and authentication. Third, invest in the proper tools. A good jeweler's loupe with at least 10x magnification is essential, as is a digital scale that can accurately measure a coin's weight to within 1/100th of a gram, because weight discrepancies can be your first clue that a coin was struck on the wrong planchet. Fourth, learn how to properly handle and store any potential error coins you find. Always hold coins by the edges, never touch the faces, and store them in proper holders like coin flips, airtight capsules, or professional grading company slabs to prevent damage and preserve their condition. And fifth, develop relationships with reputable dealers and grading services so that when you do find something valuable, you know exactly where to go for authentication, grading, and eventual sale. The authentication and grading process is absolutely critical because there are unfortunately many counterfeit and altered coins in the marketplace, and without certification from a recognized third-party grading service like PCGS or NGC, you'll have a very difficult time selling your coin for anywhere near its true value. The grading services employ teams of expert numismatists who have examined hundreds of thousands of coins and can spot fakes and alterations that would fool even experienced collectors. And when they certify a coin as genuine and assign it a grade, that certification is backed by their reputation and in some cases by a financial guarantee that provides insurance against authentication errors. The cost of grading is modest compared to the potential value of a genuine error coin. PCGS and NGC both offer submission services ranging from economy level for less expensive coins to premium and express services for high-value pieces, with pricing typically starting around $30 and going up to a few $100s for expedited service or coins with declared values in the tens of thousands or higher. Once your coin is graded and encapsulated in a tamper-evident holder, you have a permanent, portable proof of its authenticity and condition that will be recognized and respected by collectors and dealers anywhere in the world. When it comes time to sell your valuable 1981 penny, you have several excellent options depending on your timeline, your expertise, and your personal preferences. The major auction houses like Heritage Auctions, Stax Bowers, Legend Rare Coin Auctions, and Great Collections specialize in marketing rare coins to serious collectors and investors worldwide. And they have the expertise, the reputation, and the buyer base to ensure you get maximum value for your coin. These companies typically charge a seller's commission of around 10 to 20%, which might seem high, but they earn that fee by providing professional photography, detailed catalog descriptions, aggressive marketing to their extensive mailing lists and online followers, and a competitive bidding environment that drives prices higher than you could achieve selling privately. Another option is to work with a reputable retail dealer who might purchase your coin outright for inventory or help you sell it on consignment. The advantage of this approach is that you can often get paid immediately rather than waiting weeks or months for an auction, though you'll likely receive somewhat less than you would at auction because the dealer needs to make a profit when they resell the coin. Online marketplaces like eBay can also be effective for selling certified coins, especially if you have strong feedback and know how to create compelling listings with excellent photographs and detailed descriptions. But be aware that eBay charges fees and you'll need to be careful about payment fraud and shipping insurance to protect yourself. Regardless of which selling method you choose, always get multiple opinions on value before committing to a sale, and never feel pressured to accept the first offer you receive. The rare coin market is competitive, and if you have a genuinely valuable piece, there will always be multiple buyers willing to pay fair market value or even a premium to acquire it for their collections. The 1981 Lincoln penny represents an incredible opportunity for treasure hunters and coin enthusiasts because unlike the ultra-rare coins from the 19th century that are mostly locked away in museums and elite private collections, these coins are still actively circulating, still waiting in jars and piggy banks and forgotten drawers, still passing through our hands every single day without us realizing their potential value. Every time you get change at a store, every time you find a penny on the ground, Every time you count out coins to pay for something, you have a chance, however small, of discovering a genuine treasure that could change your financial future forever. This is not a lottery or a get-rich-quick scheme. This is a real, tangible opportunity that requires nothing more than knowledge, patience, attention to detail, and a willingness to examine the coins that pass through your hands with a careful, educated eye. The thrill of discovering a valuable coin is unlike anything else in collecting. It's that moment when you realize that the small piece of copper-plated zinc in your hand is actually worth more than your car, more than your savings account, maybe even more than your house. And that realization is both exhilarating and humbling because it reminds us that value isn't always obvious, that treasures can hide in the most mundane places, and that fortune sometimes favors not the richest or the luckiest, but the most observant and persistent. The stories of ordinary people finding $8 million pennies aren't fairy tales. They're proof that this hobby offers genuine opportunity for anyone willing to engage with it seriously and dedicate the time to learn what makes certain coins valuable. And that's ultimately what makes coin collecting so compelling and so accessible. You don't need a fortune to get started. You don't need expensive equipment or years of training. You just need curiosity, determination, and a willingness to look at the world a little differently, to see the extraordinary hiding within the ordinary, to understand that even the smallest and most common objects can contain stories, history, artistry, and value that most people rush past without noticing. So the next time you get a 1981 penny in your change, don't just toss it in a jar or spend it mindlessly. Take a moment to really look at it, examine the date, check for doubling, feel the weight, look at the edge, because that tiny coin might just be your ticket to financial freedom, your answer to money worries, your chance to experience the incredible rush of discovering genuine buried treasure hiding in plain sight. This is the power and the promise of numismatics, the hobby that turns everyday pocket change into potential fortunes and reminds us that adventure and opportunity are always closer than we think.